Hey guys, I'm Kendra.
Hi, I'm Mercedes, and this week we're talking about a movie celebrating its 15th anniversary this month, Knocked Up.
Knocked up. I'm so excited. But of
And
course, Mercedes, before we start, we have to talk about our celebrity crush of the week. Who are you crushing on this week?
oh my goodness, Kendra. So, no surprise here. Harry Styles released his new album, Harry's House, a couple weeks ago. So, he is my crush. It is so good. I'm so happy for him. And I'm just so happy that every new song he releases, I love. Daylight on the album is my favorite one. I want to live inside of it. I like twirl down the street listening to it. It's just I'm just so happy. It's, like, the most cohesive album he's made, and
Yeah.
I love the growth.
Okay, Mercedes, you have to tell us and be honest. How many times have you listened to it since it's come
I
out?
don't even know. It came out the day of my 2 years late belated graduation for my master's, so
Mhm.
that whole morning, I was listening to it, and, like, the whole time I was in New York, I was just listening to it, skipping down the street.
Well, also congrats on that, Mercedes. You graduated your master's. Look at you, little boss lady.
Thank
I see you.
you. Class of 2020 finally had a ceremony. It's fun to celebrate.
2 years later, no, you look
Yeah.
great. That's wonderful. Okay, so I was flipping through the channels as I do, and I was watching Deepwater Horizon, and Dylan O'Brien just has like such a small role in it, but I just love him. I
Yes.
feel like I went on a DOB kick. And I'm just like, I've seen all of his movies, and I have to tell you, I feel like I'm really good at telling when actors are about to pop off because when I saw him in Teen Wolf, I was like, he's talented. He has
Kyle
the
Stilinski.
style Stilinski, and look at him now. Like he's like number one heartthrob in all movies. So
Keep an eye out for him in LA because he tweeted recently that he's in his slut era. So
I thought he lives in New York though.
does he? I think he was filming there. I don't know if he lives there.
Okay, I saw a TikTok about how he went to the post office and he didn't know how to mail something, so he asked this girl to help him, and this was in New York City, and she took a picture of him, and it was Dylan O'Brien, and so
That's so
that's
cute.
so cute. I know how do you not know how to mail something? He's so adorable.
That's honestly terrifying, but it's cute.
Exactly. All right, guys, we're gonna move over to TLDR. Mercedes and I just like to summarize the movie for anyone who hasn't seen it. Warning, there are spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen Knocked Up, you can watch it on TBS, TNT, or you can rent it on Amazon. All right. So when TV producer slash personality Allison, played by Katherine Heigl, gets a promotion, she decides to celebrate with her sister, played by Leslie Mann, by going to a club. There, she just happens to meet Ben, played by Seth Rogen, for lack of a better word, is a man child. While Allison is very career oriented and a type A personality, Ben just struggles to take life seriously or really commit to anything. Preferring to get high and just mess around all day with his less than favorable roommates, Ben and Allison could not be more different. But of course, when you throw alcohol into the mix, all bets are off. So Allison and Ben end up sleeping together, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we get our beloved title from. As you
Yep.
suspected, Allison becomes pregnant, and after a ton of back and forth with each other and friends and family, Allison decides to keep the baby, and Ben decides to stay around to support her and the baby, much to the chagrin of Allison's sister, whom she lives with, along with her husband Pete, played by Paul Rudd, the ever loving Paul Rudd. Over the course of Allison's pregnancy, you see both her and Ben start to fall in love with each other. But in true rom-com fashion, of course, reality hits when Allison actually realizes that Ben is just not serious enough. After some time apart, some reflection, and lots of weed and bad advice, Ben ends up being there for Allison in the end when they have their baby. Let the co-parenting begin.
Yes.
So, this is a 2007 film written and directed by the one and only Judd Apatow. And if you do not know the goat of comedy, I literally can't help you. I'm like not even gonna bother saying his movies because everyone walking this planet should know Judd Apatow
By now, yeah.
by now, exactly. But there's just like so much about this movie that I loved. Um, I think the first thing is that this whole relationship is actually based off of uh Judd and Leslie Mann's marriage and life because they're actually married in real life. Yeah. And like many of the scenes in large part are based off of like their experience with their first kid, Maud Apatow, who we all know from Euphoria now,
Yeah.
but are also like the two kids in the movie are their kids too. And I just think that's so
I love that.
I do too.
Apatow is so good at just, like, keeping his crew together, like, even from, like, Freaks and Geeks and
Mhm.
beyond, you know? Like, he always has his close friends and his family just, like, filling his roles, and I
Mhm.
appreciate that because it's like Adam Sandler, like, all his close ones are getting a check, which I like.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny too because like all the characters of Ben's roommates, like they all use their real first names. So you have Martin Starr, Jason Segel, Jay
Yeah.
Baruchel, Jonah Hill, and I love this whole comedy troupe is my favorite. There's not a single movie that these guys have done that I have not laughed my butt off of. Like so good. Um, Also I found that funny that this was Seth Rogen's first leading role. Like he was super young in this, and it's funny
He
because I
was
think
so young.
yeah, I feel like Seth Rogen was born, like, 37.
Yeah, because even in the movie when they say he's 23, I'm like, "That
Yeah,
man is not
yeah.
23. He's never been 23."
And it's like, I can't imagine Seth Rogen had, like, when his voice finally drops, like, "Who's saying here I'm
'Cause
16?"
even in Freaks and Geeks, I'm like, "You are not a teenager."
Yeah.
This is a lie.
It's so funny. So, okay, last fun fact. The club that Ben and Allison meet in is actually called Plan B, and it's a real
Oh my
club.
god.
And that's just foreshadowing what's to come.
Oh, I love that, the symbolism.
The symbolism, exactly. All right, guys, we're gonna move over to time capsule Mercedes, and I just like to recall where we were when this movie came out. What was this, like 10? Oh my god,
15.
15 years ago? I'm bad with math. 15 years ago this
Yeah.
movie came out. What were you doing?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so, like, I have no memory of the first time I saw this movie. I
Yep.
definitely know it wasn't in theaters. I was 11 years old.
Mhm.
So, I definitely saw it on the E network, and which censors out so many scenes.
Yeah.
So, all the movies that I've seen on the E network, I'll watch them, like, when they're streaming, like, in
Mhm.
recent years now, and I'm like, "What do you what? I don't remember
Mhm.
this."
Yeah.
And there's so many parts that I'm like, I've never seen this part." And I think that definitely happened with this movie when I rewatched it a couple years ago too.
Mhm.
And now I've seen it so many times, just, like,
Yep.
on TV, streaming, whatever.
Yep.
And yeah, it's one of those that I've just seen a ton.
Mhm. Exactly. Um Everyone knows I like to talk about my high school experiences. All these movies that we do, Mercedes, they take place, in
They
high school
have
for me.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
never get to talk about my high school
I know.
experience. They're all within I
Wait,
think there's been, like, one.
what years were you in high school?
I think I graduated in 2014.
Mhm.
So, like, I think I guess I started that fall in freshman year of 2010. Yeah,
Okay.
2010.
Okay, so I was 2006 to 2010. That was my high school career, so,
Okay, so
uh
you were a senior when I was in 8th grade.
are we really that far apart? I feel like
Just 4. It
okay.
sounds like a lot when you
Yeah.
think of like, in high school years, yeah.
Yeah, high school years, it's a lot. Um, Not to bring the mood down, but I've talked about, how I had a really tough time in high school just with kids bullying and being mean, but I just remember this movie came out the summer after my freshman year, which was just a particularly hard time for me. I had this friend, she had such a big mouth. She literally knew she was like Gretchen Wieners, just was in
Oh my god.
everyone's business, knew everything about everyone. And I remember she called me, and this was literally right after classes ended, so we were out for the summer. And she just sat me down on the phone for like 45 minutes, which was a long time when
That
you're
is a
like
long
14
call.
or 15. And she just told me the crap that everyone talked about me the entire year. Like,
What? Why would she
literally
ever do
in the
that?
beginning, just she was just like, "I just want," she was it was always under the guise of like, "I just want you to know. I just thought you should know," you know?
Absolutely not. No, I hate people like that. They're just like, "I just want you to know that someone was talking shit about you."
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
"Actually, you didn't have to tell me at all."
Yeah, but it still stays with me, right? That conversation still stays with me.
Totally.
And, like, I definitely didn't see this in theaters because it was rated R, and I remember because this came out before 8 Mile, and 8 Mile was the first rated R movie that I didn't get to see, but my sister saw it with my parents because
Oh
like,
my god.
she had to go with my mom, and it was just like I wasn't old enough to watch rated R movies yet, but I definitely saw this before college. So I think like you, I watched it was streaming on TV, and all of the, uh, sexual parts were censored out, so it was fine.
Right.
It was fine. Um, I feel like okay, so if I was in freshman year, then what were you, like, in 5th grade? 6th.
I had just finished 5th grade because this came out June 1st,
Okay.
2007. So I was 11. I just finished 5th grade the summer before I started middle school.
Mhm.
And it was gonna be, like, my first time at a different school where my parents weren't teaching, and my brothers were just born. They were born in March 2007, so the same
Mhm.
age as this movie, which is psychotic.
Mhm.
It's so great. That's how I know the anniversary of this movie. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, 15." And, yes, they were a couple months old. Yeah, this summer, I was definitely just playing soccer and basketball and dancing and swim team and tennis. I was busy, and then I was just obsessed with Zac Efron because the High School Musical 2 came out in August 2007.
Mhm.
So I was gearing up to it that whole summer. I was like,
Yes.
"I'm ready." And on
Yes.
Disney Channel, when they're showing all the summer movies and you get to vote
Mhm.
online, that was, like,
Yes.
my favorite thing. Yeah.
Did you actually go and vote online? I don't think I ever did.
I would go online with my dad, and we'd, like, pick it together.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so, oh gosh, freshman year, it's just so funny because I just feel like I feel like that summer, I just tried to stop caring so much about what people thought about me after that conversation,
That's
and
so early on to, like, have that. I don't know, I feel like that's so young to be like, "I'm gonna, like, not care about what people think," which is
oh,
so
it didn't work. It didn't work. I was like, "I'm gonna try," and then, like, it didn't work. I went right back to school in September. It was like, "Oh my god, I'm all self-conscious." So, like
yeah, that's still me sometimes now.
Yeah. I feel like I had a really big crush. Oh my gosh. Why am I just now blanking on his name? He did um Lucas Teal. Lucas Till?
I don't know.
Lucas Till. Lucas Till.
What was
He's
he in?
like okay, I think you would know him from You Belong With Me, the Taylor Swift
Oh my gosh,
music
was he in
video.
the Hannah Montana movie?
Yes, 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 yes,
Yes, yes,
yes.
yes. Yes, I know him.
I can't remember. I think I had a crush on him during that
It's
time.
a good crush.
Oh my gosh, he was so cute, right?
Yeah.
Lucas Till, slide into my DMs at Kenta Hollywood.
Yeah,
Hello.
hit Kendra up. Oh my god.
Y'all, your girl is painstakingly single out here. Please, someone slide in my DMs. All right, guys, we're gonna move over to the Rom-Com Hall of Fame. But of course, Mercedes, we have to talk about what does not work in this movie. Tell me what some of your roasts are.
So I have some long ones, but they're
Mhm.
major. So the
Okay.
first one, the sexism, first and foremost. This
Mhm.
movie was a large factor in the Katherine Heigl blacklisting in Hollywood. We touched on this before in the 27 Dresses episode that in 2008 she made comments critiquing this character and her Grey's Anatomy character. And
Mhm.
these specific comments were also made by critics too, just about how she just played this unpleasant, unfunny woman in this movie about her pregnancy.
Mhm.
And the men are all depicted as like these goofy, childlike adults. And they are the comic relief when she's just like pregnant and inconsistent with her character. You don't really know if she wants to have this baby truly, if she's like ready for this. Like, you never get her internal monologue at all or her point of
Mhm.
view.
Mhm.
And it's just frustrating because her comments were like valid. Like she said, this is kind of sexist.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think this is pretty blatant. Like seeing women as miserable and humorless, and even Leslie Mann, who's so hilarious,
Mhm.
compared to like in this movie, especially compared to Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd, who were like truly the comic relief. Like her comedic timing kind of goes like under the radar a little bit.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like, I think you even get more substance from, like, all the stoner crew, like, all his roommates. Like, you get more into their life than you do Allison at all. Like, by the end, you don't really know Allison when this is a story about her journey with this baby. Like, we should know everything about her. So
Mhm.
that's annoying to me. What do you have to say?
I hear you. Um, gosh, there is this. I actually really kind of regret watching this video on TikTok now because I cannot get it out of
Oh.
my head. I heard this saying on TikTok that I feel like I cannot unhear now. So it is said if a woman's first child is a girl, she had some maturing to do. If it's a boy, she needed to know the true meaning of love. And now every single one of my friends or people that I know that have girls, I'm like, yeah, you had some maturing to do. And I see that a bit in Allison's character of just like her needing to like have control or like having things like a certain way.
Mhm.
Because obviously that's not what life is about. But it's just so interesting that concept of like nothing will would mature a woman faster than raising a mini version of herself. And I just think of like all of my friends who have had boys, like they've all gone through some stuff, right?
Mhm.
But that have made them like very strong individuals, and now they need to know the true meaning of love, and I feel like it's just kind of blown my mind. I hear 100% what you're saying about Allison, and I guess, because I'm watching this movie and I'm laughing the whole time, and my core reason for watching this movie is because I like the whole Apatow crew. I guess I've kind of always overlooked, um, the perceived sexism of the women that are portrayed in this movie, and it's very interesting too because it's a movie about pregnancy that has a lot of commentary and opinions of men. And obviously, right now, that's a sensitive time because in the United States, if we have any listeners overseas, like, we
Yeah.
overturned Roe versus Wade. And it's just been a really hard
Or
time.
it was leaked that they're going to that
Yeah.
they're planning, like, the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's a hard time right now. Also
Yeah,
this, I mean, I feel like this movie was also foreshadowing something. But
totally.
yeah, I feel like I can't get that out of my head, and now whenever I watch, like I meet someone or watch a movie, I just think of like, what is it that you have to mature about when you have a
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it.
isn't that like so
I
I
had
wish I
never
could
heard anything like that before.
yeah. I mean, I'm curious, like if you like took the time to like look back on all the people like what what you think it would be. Anyways, it's just been a common theme in my life. So
I'm gonna think about that
yeah,
for
think
a
about
little while.
it.
Another thing, like you said, this timing of this recording also kind of goes along with the current events of Roe versus Wade right now.
Mhm.
And I recently read an article that came out in May from The Atlantic by Megan Garber, where she used this movie and its 15-year anniversary to examine the country's relationship with abortion and reproductive health. And
Oh.
I urge everyone to read it. It's really good. And I don't know, like I have a media studies background, so I love any article or essay that blends pop culture and political criticism in a way that makes it a lot more digestible. And it's a really good case study too, and I thought it would just be, like, really interesting to bring up since we're talking about this movie on its 15th anniversary. And so
Mhm.
this article explains how surprisingly conservative this storyline is because
Mm.
of the fact that we don't see Allison's point of view that I mentioned,
Mhm.
of her own decision. We hear everybody else, her parents, his family, friends, everybody talk about what she should do with her body, but we never hear about her. We never see her inner monologue. And, all we do see is the pain and struggle she endures during the pregnancy journey, and whether that
Mhm.
be, like, stress or, like, actual, like, stress from, like, pregnancy and stress from, like, her relationship, all of those
Mhm.
things, and this is an R-rated raunch alt comedy Apatow movie about an unplanned, unwanted pregnancy, really, at the beginning, and they don't even utter the words abortion, really. The closest they get is shmashmortion,
Yeah.
which is nuts to me because this is a movie that, like, I don't know, Apatow pushes the, like, envelope a lot with his comedy, and I think we expect that. But since they don't even say the word abortion, correctly even, they use it as, like, some hidden thing, it emphasizes the shame within the word,
Mm.
and, I don't know, I think that's really interesting because that's kind of the same way that it's talked about in the political sphere. You never hear the word abortion, you hear, like, bodily autonomy and
Mhm.
all these other words that are, like, supposed to imply that. So that's really what Garber talks about. And then there's this quote that I really liked at the end where she says, "As Allison becomes a mother, will Ben be able to become a father? These are the questions that animate the movie. Allison's role along the way is blandly maternal. By giving birth to this baby, Knocked Up implies she is helping Ben, the man child, become a man."
Mm.
So
Mm.
I don't know. It's such a good article. I don't do it justice. So please read it if you have the time. It's so good.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's Mercedes, you're so insightful when you think of things like this. And I always feel lame going after you because
No,
I think
no,
but I think
no.
that's why we work because you think about it so in depth and I think about it more on the surface level. So I feel like we attack it from both sides.
I don't
Oh.
think either of us think about it from the surface level. I think we both just have such different avenues of, like, analyzing these movies, which is what
Mhm.
makes it work, you know? And,
Yeah.
like, I never listen to your points being like, "Oh, that's nothing compared to mine." No, like, you're always sharing information from a different point of view that I wouldn't have thought of before on my own.
Yeah, I definitely think about it also from a very personal point of view because like
Yeah.
there's a line where Pete says, once you have kids, all your hopes and dreams go out the window. And I just feel like this is a really negative mentality that we as millennials have adapted that I don't personally subscribe to. I don't think my life is going to be over once I have kids. There's a part of me actually that feels like a part of me has not been awakened yet because I don't have kids. And like
Yeah,
when I become a mother, like that part is going to be awakened. Like that's something I'm looking forward to in my life. But I
totally.
understand things get more difficult. But I think too, you remember that article where the Pope came out and said he wished like our generation stopped having pets and started having kids?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
remember that? Yeah, I feel like it's this mentality of, like, my life is going to be over, I can't have happiness, I can't do X, Y, and Z because I'm gonna have kids. Kids make things a bit more difficult, but they don't make things impossible. And so
Yeah.
I just, like, I just don't like that mentality, I wanna throw it out the window.
No, I don't like that either, especially I think we see most of those comments from men in media,
Mhm,
especially. Like, that's definitely and that's the same comment of like, "Oh, yeah, once you get married, life is over." Like, all these
mhm.
things that are, like, supposed to be really important, special things
Yeah,
to individuals,
mhm.
and if you wanna do it and partake and, like, go down that road, then, like, you should love it, you
Mhm,
know?
exactly. I used to subscribe to the magazines Teen People and 17,
Oh, same.
growing up yeah, so I read so many articles in there, and so Debbie makes a comment that she says, "Ben and Allison's kids are going to have bad genes because Ben is overweight,"
Yeah.
and I just remember reading in that article that, like, men subconsciously will not date women based off of how they think they're gonna look in the future, right? And I remember that moment thinking like, "Oh gosh, I would never wanna bring a guy home to my mother because, my mother is overweight." And I just always remember thinking, "I don't want a guy to not." This is so stupid. Like, honestly, what are those magazines teaching us in the first place?
Yeah,
Like,
why don't they ever and those are the things that stick with you when you're really young, you're like, "Oh, this is, like I need to believe this is
mhm.
fact." And
Exactly.
then you think about it later and you're like, "Why did this stick with me at all?"
Yeah, it's so
Ugh.
impressionable, especially at that age, right? Like, at the age
Yeah.
I was reading it, I was consuming information, and so it's something that's
Mhm.
always in the back of my head of, like, men will not date you if they think you're going to look a certain way when you are a certain age, and I'm like, "That's BS." Like, obviously now, as an adult,
Yeah.
like, that's BS, but, like, when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh my god."
There was this, thing on TikTok that came up a
Mhm,
few months ago that my friends and I had, like, a lot of discussions about how men don't choose, like, to marry the woman that they, like, really love. They choose the woman that they, like that they think it's, like, the right time to be
mhm,
married. That's when they
yep,
choose and that to me is just, like that sits in my brain, like, every day. I'm like, "That is
yeah.
insane."
Yeah,
Right?
did you see the thread on Twitter of, like, all the men responding to that prompt and saying
Yes, that's
yeah.
so embarrassing. God, it's pathetic. They're
Yeah.
just like, "I have a long lost love." I'm like, "I'm sorry, that is such loser behavior." God,
Yeah.
get it together.
I know, and it just makes me sad too. I think just being older, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be married quickly because I don't wanna be someone's second choice. I don't wanna be someone's like, "Oh, I settled for this person," because, like, the person I actually loved, I wasn't ready to get married, but now that I'm ready to get
Right.
married and you're in front of me, let's just get married. Like, I don't want
Ugh.
that. It's very stressful.
But you're such a lover of love that I don't ever
Mhm.
think that you would fall under, like, a spell like that.
I hope not, because sometimes, like, guys can be so thwarting with their emotions. Like,
It's
you
true.
you never know. You never know. I will say that the last thing about the last rose I have for this movie is, Adam Scott plays the male nurse that is, like, helping
Mhm.
Allison, and he tells her to tone it down because she's freaking out all the other moms that are about to
Oh
give
my
birth
god.
by screaming, and I was like, "You try pushing a 8-pound baby through a 10-centimeter dilated canal and tell me that that does not hurt."
Exactly, and here's this control freak woman who her doctor isn't there. Like, I would be
Mhm.
panicking.
Yes,
I'd be the worst
exactly.
patient.
It is the worst, it is the worst. Good insight, Mercedes. I like talking about this one with you. Good insight.
Yes.
Alright, guys, we're gonna move over to quotability. Oh gosh. There are so many things in here that are just
Yeah.
iconic. Just iconic. I feel like one of like so many lines in this movie are my favorite, and I think they're hilarious, but they're also inappropriate, and I would not be caught dead repeating them myself. But I always laugh at Craig Robinson, who plays the bouncer at the
Oh,
club,
yes.
and he's like, "I'm only allowed to let in 5% of black people." He's like, "That means if there are 25 people here, I get to let in 1 and a quarter black people, so I gotta hope there's a little black person in the crowd."
He's so good when he's just like, "Hey, I'm not letting you in because you're old."
I I love it. What is yours, Mercedes?
Mine is Judd Apatow's legendary explanation of where babies come from, where she's like, "Well, I think a stork, he drops it down, and then a hole goes in your body, and there's blood everywhere and coming out of your head, and then you push your belly button, and then your butt falls off, and then you hold your butt, and you have to dig, and then you find a baby." And you're like, "Excuse me?" And they're all just staring at her, and she's just so proud, and that's how you knew she was gonna be great.
Yeah, I wonder if that was scripted or she actually thought, like, her dad was just like, "Sweetie, tell us where you think babies come from," and then he just, like, started recording.
Honestly, she was so young, it may have just been ad lib.
Yeah, I know, seriously. Alright, Mercedes, if this movie popped up on your Tinder feed, are you swiping left or are you swiping right?
So, I don't know. I've seen this movie a lot, and while it does make me laugh, I think instead of swiping, I would just exit the app,
Yep,
and,
that's
like,
what I
leave
do.
it for later. I've rewatched this so many times, and I laugh, and I enjoy myself, but I also understand, like, that the flaws in it are just so blatant, and as
Yeah.
I get older, I think I just want more from this movie, and it can't obviously provide me with that because it's
Mhm.
from 15 years ago, and I think that's the thing with a lot of these movies, like, some of them just don't age with you,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
okay too.
and I think that's a good sign, though, because it shows that you are changing with the times,
Yeah,
and you are maturing on your own, and it's funny how
totally.
you can measure that with movies. So,
I know,
uh,
I love that.
yeah, I love that too. So, guiltily, I am swiping right. As I said, I cannot even express this enough to you. I love the whole Apatow crew. Every movie, like, any of them have been in that I've seen, like, even Jay Baruchel, like, saying doing the voice of Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon 1, 2, and 3, I love.
Aw.
Those are some of my favorite movies. I just think these guys are some of the funniest people walking the planet, and I just feel very honored to be alive during the time that they are in their glory. I
That's
also
so
felt
sweet.
I like if, and any of them, like Seth Rogen, Jay, Jonah Hill, Craig, if I can meet any of them. I met Craig Robinson
Wow.
actually, and it was lovely.
Ooh,
I did. I met him
I
at this
love
like
Jonah.
yeah, Jonah's
Jonah.
Jonah's great, and I love his range too as an actor. Like he's not just comedy, like
Yeah.
he can do Moneyball, and it's like
Mhm.
Wolf of Wall Street. I also felt like with the personal aspect that Judd Apatow included in this film, it was just very innovative. It was an innovative way to approach comedy in a sense. Like to be able to reflect on your life during such pivotal times and find the comedy in it, that requires, in my opinion, like a lot of self-awareness. And it's something that I really appreciate as a viewer. So
Yeah.
I'm swiping right on this one.
Yes.
All right, guys, time for couples therapy. Mercedes and I, because we are pros, we like to just give advice on to the people on how they can improve their relationship. And I have some thoughts. I got some thoughts.
Same.
Uh I feel like Ben just definitely needs to grow up and take responsibility. And it just, again, it blows my mind that he's meant to be 23 in this movie. Obviously, when I was 23, like I was working, I was like going out. I was just being a young 20-year-old. And it must be hard to have a baby at that time. Like I have no idea how he plans on supporting himself, getting a job since he's in the country illegally. And I just have
Yeah.
so many questions. And just unfortunately, some of the things Ben needs to work on just won't be solved by maturing. Like, there are legal
Mhm.
issues here. Like, Ben needs a lawyer. Ben, get a lawyer. Like
Yeah. Oh my god, he stresses me out so much, and there's just nothing endearing to me about these adult, child, forever kid type
Yup,
men.
yup.
The like, I just I'm never gonna find it cute, I'm never gonna find like, yeah, it's comical for a second,
Mhm.
but I just like, if you don't have your life together and I understand being 23, you don't have your life together, but you also have a baby on the way,
Yeah.
so get it together.
Get your life
Like, yeah,
together.
pick it up fast, and, like, being goofy and being irresponsible or unreliable or just, like, not synonymous, like, you can be silly and
Mhm.
also be responsible,
Yeah.
and you can be and I think that there's a huge problem with, like, him and his friends in this movie where they're like, "If you grow up, you have to, like, leave all the fun behind," and I
Mhm.
just hate that narrative, like, that's just I don't know, it sucks the fun out of life.
I almost feel like Pete was the adult version of Ben. Like, Pete
Yeah.
is who Ben becomes if he decides to mature and get his life together, and, like, that scares him because he sees his life and he's like, "You must be miserable, dude." Like,
Yeah.
just I and that I don't know. I really like that part where Pete is talking about how Debbie just loves him and wants to be around him, and he, like, can't
Mhm.
accept love, because that's a huge part of even maturing is, like, can you accept the love that's around you? Can you accept the love from the people that are closest to you? Because like, love really does change us.
Yeah, and he was, like, actively avoiding her and,
Yeah.
like, running from it in any
Mhm.
way that he could.
Yeah. Also being married
It's
to her.
just yeah. I feel bad for Allison
Mhm.
and Debbie, honestly, in this,
Yeah.
like, era of their marriage too. It's
Mhm.
obviously, like, this isn't the ideal situation, and it's commendable that she does see the good in Ben because
Mhm.
he's not bad, it's just that his immaturity is dangerous.
Mhm.
And, I don't know, I think when you're about to undertake, like, the most important probably the idea of or I don't know, the most important role of responsibility ever of, like, caring for another human for 24/7 for the rest of your life,
Mhm.
you just need, like, to be as secure in, like, wherever space you are and, like, know that you have people around you because it can't just be you alone anyway, like, you need
Yeah.
reliable people.
Yeah.
And to trust somebody like him, I know he, like, gets better and he, like, learns a little bit, he gets his own place, but still, like, there needs to be consistency there, and
Yeah,
it's not
100%.
there.
And I feel like for Allison, this is so hard because being pregnant is incredibly stressful. Um,
Mm,
just Allison is just such a type A personality. She works hard, she's very motivated and driven, and she likes control. And I think in a partnership, it requires a lot of compromise. And I hope she learns how to do that. I understand in this capacity, it is hard because she is pregnant. It's stressful. Her body is changing. Her hormones are all over the place.
yeah,
But if her and Ben want to make it work long term, compromise is required, and so I hope that that's
definitely.
a place she's able to reach.
Yeah.
What do you
Ugh.
think? Okay, so I'm very curious what you think their love language is, because when we talk about rom-coms, we often talk that acts of service is a big one, and it's also like the driving and motivating factor in pushing the story forward in a rom-com.
Yeah.
So what do you think their love languages are?
So I think Allison needs acts of service, and she also gives acts of service.
Mhm.
And Ben needs words of affirmation. He's so insecure and just needs the verbal reassurance. And he's also just young. I think that also plays a role in it too.
Mhm.
And I think he gives quality time. All he does is hang out and like chill. So like he doesn't do anything else.
Yeah. 100% agree. And it's so interesting. Every character that we analyze, one of them always has acts of service as a love.
Yeah, I think we've only had like one movie without acts of service.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
It's very crazy, but it's also very interesting. I love it. I love it. All right. Does this couple last in 5 years? I personally say not for a hot second. Like, I do not I love Seth Rogen. Ben is an interesting character. I do not understand Allison's attraction to Ben whatsoever. I think these 2 could not be more opposite. It's not even in the cute way of, like, opposites attract. It's like it almost feels like settling.
Yeah, oh, it completely is. And I love Seth Rogen. Ben is just he stresses me out as a character.
As a character,
And, like, and for me, I'm like, "Allison, get out of there." Like,
yeah.
there's this meme that's a Demi Lovato quote or something where they're like, "Get a real job. Get away. Stay away from her." And that's how I feel. That's what I wanna tell Ben.
I 100% agree. Okay. Would you oh gosh. Let me start. Alright, guys, time for a heartthrob. I wanna know, Mercedes, who are you taking home to introduce to your friends and your family?
Okay, I'm saying Pete only because I love Paul Rudd. I don't like Pete as a character, but how can you not like Paul Rudd?
I don't
I like, he's so annoying as Pete, like, lying about, like, going to your little, like, weird fantasy football, fantasy baseball, whatever he's doing.
Mhm.
So annoying, but
I just I feel like whenever I think of Paul Rudd, I think of a chocolate lab puppy. Like, I don't know why.
oh,
He has these puppy eyes almost, and I think it's because his hair is dark. Like, he reminds me of a chocolate lab, and they're just so cute and so sweet, and I love yeah, okay, P is definitely my heartthrob, but it's mostly because Paul Rudd
definitely.
just I just love him. He's
It
just
is
so
so
funny.
funny. It's so funny because 'cause I'm always like, "Don't infantilize these adult men." Like, that's always, like, my biggest gripe with this, but then when I see Paul Rudd, I'm like, Oh.
It's really hard not to. It is really hard.
Yes.
Don't even get me started. We got to do Clueless at some point in the future, but don't get
Oh
me
my
started on
god, I
it.
cannot wait till we do Clueless.
Yes. All right, marry, smooch, ghost. Who are you marrying? Who are you smooching? And who are you ghosting?
Okay, between Ben, Pete, and Jason,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd marry Pete, I'd smooch Jason, and I'd ghost Ben.
Mercedes, this is a rare occurrence. I have to agree with you there. I am marrying Pete. I am smooching Jason. I am ghosting Ben.
I love when this happens. It
I
makes me
do
so
too.
happy.
It is rare, but it's always so wonderful when it does.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, listeners, we always love to bring in a pop culture moment. And I just love that Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen were reunited for that Super Bowl commercial. It's just like the
Yeah.
best. Have you seen it? It's the best thing
Mhm.
ever.
It's just comforting to see them together.
It really is. It really
Yeah.
is. What's yours?
Okay, so this was not the only pregnant movie to premiere in 2007.
Mhm.
Juno came out this same year, and it
Mm.
tells a wonderful story about choice and teenage pregnancy. And also, Waitress came out in 2007. So it's just three pregnancy movies in one year. That's crazy. And it's also the year my brothers were born. So a lot of pregnancy happening, a lot of pregnancy.
Wait, what is
And
Waitress?
oh my gosh, Waitress, well, it's now a musical. I don't know if it's still on, but it's so good. And it's just about this waitress. Yeah, she's like in a marriage she doesn't like, and it's all themed like narrated through like the pies she bakes. So like when she's emotional, she like makes another pie.
Mm.
And it's so cute. I forget who's in it, but yeah, and then she actually gets pregnant and there's just a lot happening and
Ah.
a lot of stuff going on. It's a good one. Yes, Carrie Russell's in it. Yeah.
Okay. I gotta
But
check this out.
I I have a little point about pregnancy movies. Have you ever
Mhm.
noticed that in almost every birth scene in a movie, the woman is screaming while the doctor's like, "It's too late for an epidural." Like, why do movies emphasize natural birth so much? Like that none of them want any of us to have like a comfortable birth experience.
Yup.
It's
100%.
crazy. It's
I
so
never noticed
weird.
that. And it's interesting that you noticed that, but yeah, that is oh, and you know what's really interesting too is that there's a lot of, like, documentaries and commentary coming out about how the medical industry just wants to drug you up when it comes to, like, having a baby. I've had a lot of friends who've had babies, but there was someone I worked with specifically who told me she did not pay off her kid, like, giving birth to her kid until the kid was 4 years old. So,
Oh my gosh.
there is
Nobody talks about any of that. Oh, it's a mess.
exactly. It is such a mess. I also feel okay, so Seth Rogen has started a company called Houseplants that,
Yes.
sells weed and home goods, and if that is not the adult version of Ben, like, I cannot
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Do you follow him on TikTok?
Oh, Seth Rogen?
Yeah.
No, I don't follow celebrities on TikTok, but,
No,
I
his is he doesn't, like, TikTok his face or anything. He just shows the pottery he makes and, like, all the ashtrays he makes for, like that, like, inspired his company.
that is how Ben earns an income.
Truly.
He makes ashtrays. All right, listeners, we want to know your thoughts. Do you like this movie? What do you feel like the commentary is? Do you feel like it hits really close to home with what's happening in the United States right now? Make sure to slide into our DMs at Meet Cute. Again, I'm Kendra. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ken10Hollywood.
Yes, and I'm Mercedes. You can find me at MercedesGV11 on Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And if you're looking for new rom-coms, follow Meet Cute wherever you listen to podcasts and follow Meet Cute on socials everywhere. Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week.